Let's talk about two design patterns which combined together are used across many places in Symfony ecosystem. From a quick investigation, I can tell you that mailer component, messenger notifier, EventDispatcher security, serializer components all implement a combination of those two design patterns. Also, the reason I think it's worth looking at this a bit closer is that once you see the implementation, the code looks very easy to read and maintain. So without further ado, I want to show how a strategy design pattern and chain of responsibility design pattern can work together. So let's begin. First, I'm doing a quick namespace setup and I'm including Composer Autoload into index.php file. Then I want to create a strategy design pattern example. I'm introducing a strategy interface where I define method called execute. It takes an array of numbers as an argument and the result is expected to be number with decimal point. I want to now create two classes implementing my strategy interface. It's going to be a class responsible for adding numbers together and another one responsible for subtracting numbers. I need to add a context class, which is going to be called example. I create execute strategy method there, which takes a strategy interface as my argument and an array with numbers as the second argument. As you can see, when I execute first strategy, I'm adding three numbers together and I get 13. If we swap strategy to subtract numbers, we get minus 13. It's basically a strategy design pattern where we can swap strategies depending on our use case. Now it's time to go beyond strategy design pattern, and I modify my example class to accept an array of strategies from a constructor. That way we can store a collection of strategies. I introduce execute strategies method, and my argument is accepting a string type, an array with numbers. I go back to strategy interface and I introduced support method with a string as a type and expected results to be Boolean. My execute strategies method now checks a support condition and it executes strategy if condition is met. I have to go back to add support method for both strategies to make sure conditions are different. As you can see, when I run execute strategies, I simply give a string type as my first argument and my context class is doing the rest. If we want to add a new strategy, I simply add it to the constructor list and no other code has to be modified. Let's quickly look at some code examples from existing Symfony components. A Symfony mailer and notifier components have a transport class where we loop through a list of factories, and each factory has a support method where we check if given condition is met. Only one factory can be executed at the end, otherwise exception is thrown. Then we have a Symfony Serializer component where there's a list of encoders. Each encoder is evaluating condition inside support encoding method. And finally, as an example, inside a security HTTP component, we have Authenticator Manager, where our list of authenticators are calling support method. I hope you've learned something new today. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.